A very, warm good afternoon to all the students. Welcome back to the session of DAW. We were not doing the live sessions for some unavoidable reasons, and there has been some hiccup. But now we are back, and we will be regularly coming back at 11:30 a.m. in the morning for our mains answer writing sessions. Okay. I understand that today we are not meeting at our usual time, and most of the students might not be even aware that we are now resuming our session. So I understand all that situation. But from today, we are resuming our sessions. And from tomorrow, that is Saturday, we will be meeting again at 11:30 a.m. in the morning. And all the sessions for the GS3 month, which has not been covered, there are some questions, around some 7-8 questions are there. Those questions will be made available on your playlist by next week. Okay. I hope that the audio and the video is clear. So now we will start with today's question number 18. Let's first look at the question. Examine the importance of community-centric risk reduction plans. So the first keyword that we have identified in the question is that question is on disaster management, and question is asking about what is the importance of community-centric risk reduction. Community-centric risk reduction. यहाँ पे this keyword of community-centric risk reduction, community-centric plus risk reduction. So here also you have to basically see that you have to break your keyword into two parts. That is that how community-centric is important, that involving the people, involving the communities, involving the NGOs, involving the Panchayati Raj institutions in disaster management is important. And along with that, risk reduction. Risk reduction means that in the disaster management sector, you will see that there are certain keywords. The first keyword is that certain vulnerabilities can be there. But even if vulnerabilities are there, the risk will vary as per the resilience, as per the strength of the community. है ना? तो risk reduce करना है हमें, vulnerability reduce करनी है हमें. कैसे वो हम देखेंगे. So community centric risk reduction plans in long term cyclone management. So question is on cyclone management and how involving community can lead to reduction in the risk. That is the essential demand of the question. We have to examine that. Then it is asking us that discuss how involving local communities in the planning and implementation of risk reduction measures can enhance overall resilience. So 250 words, 15 marker. Now you will see that there are only two keywords when it comes to the question, that how community centric activities have to increase and how they will lead to overall risk reduction and overall resilience will increase. Okay, that is the demand of the question. Now let's see that how we can structure this question. So what do we mean by structuring? That we will try to break down the question in subparts. First we will introduce the question. We will see what all can come in introduction in the next part. But first we are seeing the subparts. Then we have to tell importance of community centric risk reduction plans. Okay, we will tell about the importance of community centric risk reduction in terms of cyclone management. Then we will tell that how involving the local communities, and here you will have to tell that how do you exactly involve them. Okay, how do you involve local communities and how that will lead to overall enhancement in the welfare. After that, you might give a way forward, but since you have not given any kind of challenges, way forward can be based on any kind of case study, okay, which gives a vision of the best practice that is available in cyclone management, okay, and then we will conclude. So this is going to be the structure, and structure is clearly visible in the question also. Structure is as such not something in which you will have difficulty in this question, है ना. इनोवेशन देखेंगे कहाँ पे कर सकते हैं अभी आगे. कशिश, कौशल, गुड आफ्टरनून कशिश. So how can we introduce? Question is on disaster management, okay. Question is on disaster management, and you have to show that how India is vulnerable to different kind of disasters, specifically cyclone, है ना. So what you can do is that you can tell that how India has a coastline, that extends up to 7,000 kilometers, है ना, and how India is vulnerable to cyclones. Why? Because we see that how Bay of Bengal is very much vulnerable to the formation of tropical cyclones, है ना. So first of all, we have to show the context, the geographical context. Then we can also show that how there is formation of ENSO, there are formation of maiden Julian oscillations, how there is El Nino conditions, how maybe due to climate change we are seeing certain kind of western disturbances. All these of geographical conditions, all these of climatological conditions are creating the scenario where more and more cyclones are happening in the India. Then you can also show that how earlier Arabian Sea was not vulnerable to cyclones, but even within the Arabian Sea now we are seeing the emergence of cyclones. So the introduction can be that you just tell the context, that what is the importance of cyclone management when it comes to India, okay. That can be your introduction. And what is the smart thing to do? While we are constantly reading the different kind of current affair for prelims, right, we keep reading different kind of cyclones that are happening. I am sure you must have heard about cyclone Amphan, है ना. You must have heard about cyclone Nisagar. What you have to do is that for every disaster, you have to keep in mind some 2 or 3 kind of cyclones which happened in India, है ना. जैसे मैं आपको एग्जांपल बताता हूं. What we saw in mains 2023 was there was a question on dam failure. And what they did in exam was that they specifically asked that give examples of 2 major dam failures, है ना. Now if you are not able to recollect the example of dam failure, there is no way that examiner will give you marks for that much part of the answer. There is no way, है ना. So how to go about it? How to ensure that you have some examples for everything? That what you should do is keep 1 page of your disaster management notes where you name all the major disasters. You name landslides, you name tsunami, you name earthquake, and so on, cyclone, है ना. Keep information of 2-3 incidents, 2-3 disasters, major disasters which happen in each of them, okay. For example, when it comes to earthquake, if you are not mentioning the Bhuj earthquake when we are talking about earthquake management, then your answer is not complete, Okay, so for every disaster, for example, if we talk about dam failures, now in exam like scenario, you will never be able to think about that what were the dam failures, because as such there have been no very major and very well known dam failures, right? So what is one way to handle about it? That while I was writing this answer myself in the mains, just some days before there was very major news from Libya, that how a major dam failure caused lot of floods in Libya, and it further also caused lot of deaths. And because there is no kind of very strong state mechanisms in Libya, this case study was very much in news. So what you can do, and question was not asking to give us the examples within India. There was no point in question which was saying that you have to tell the dam failures within India, है ना? So you have to be innovative also, and you have to keep, while you are reading current affairs, you have to keep connecting it with your static. Okay. So coming back to the point, this is how you can introduce. Now let's also see some of the ways in which the copies have introduced the question. This is one of the introduction, very good introduction. Let's see why it is good. Firstly, they have started directly with the second ARC. Now students, you do not have to read the whole reports of second ARC. I am sure that even some of the bureaucrats have not read the whole report, but you have to read the summaries of these reports. Okay, there is one specific chapter in second ARC which is related to disaster management, and that chapter talks about, it emphasizes about the importance of community management, the importance of community participation in disaster management. So what this copy has done is that they have directly taken up the second ARC report, and it strengthens the case that they are well read. It leaves a good impression. Second ARC recommended the decentralization of disaster management by roping in the Panchayati Raj institutions for location specific training programs and sensitization of locals to minimize the effects of disaster. Excellent definition. Excellent. Why I am using the word excellent? If you will see that constantly the candidate is using keywords specific to the demand, that what is the role of community centric disaster management. So they have used decentralization of disaster management. Why decentralization? Because community specific approach towards disaster means that you are using the whole of the pyramid approach. You are using community, you are using Panchayati Raj, and not just the center. So only if one centralized authority is involved in in disaster management, that is a centralized approach. But how this is a decentralized approach. So that is one of the keywords. By roping in Panchayati Raj institution for location specific, this is very, very good. Why very, very good? Suppose that there is area of Uttarakhand. Now disaster management in Uttarakhand requires different kind of training than people who are living in the plains, right? Disaster management involves different kind of training for people living in the coastal areas. So communities have to be trained in a specific manner. This point is also mentioned very well in this answer. And sensitization of locals. So how awareness has to be brought in to minimize the effect. Community based disaster management includes not just response and rescue actions, but also collective planning. Now what does this last statement shows about the candidate? That they are aware about disaster management cycle, that how there are different stages in disaster management, and how community participation, community engagement is must at each level of that cycle, right? So this is one of the very good introduction. अभी introduction में तो हमारे पास और नहीं है. So we will come back to the brainstorming and we will see what can be done. Now we will come to importance of community centric risk reduction. Before that, I want to tell you one thing. If you will read the first line, examine the importance of community centric risk reduction plans in long term cyclone management. You will have to first break down if you want to generate points on the importance of community-centric risk reduction in long-term cyclone management, first of all, you will have to break down cyclone management. How to break down cyclone management? You must remember that there is one cycle for disaster management, right? Directly, you can use that cycle. How? This kind of disaster management cycle is applicable for all the disasters. It is applicable for cyclone, it is applicable for earthquake, it is applicable for landslide. All the disasters will be covered. Now, how to use it? You do not even have to draw this diagram. If you do, that is the best case. But even if you're not able to draw, then how to generate points? That whenever a cyclone will happen, how at the relief and the response stage, what kind of response can be provided immediately by the community, okay, which cannot be provided by other actors. Then at the recovery stage, how the community can participate. At the rehabilitation stage, how they can participate. At the reconstruction phase, how they can participate. All these three parts, they are part of the crisis management. Then in terms of development, prevention, mitigation, preparedness, this is part of risk management. Now what you have to do is that cyclone management involves all of these different pillars, right? And we have to tell that how community engagement can be done at the each level. Okay, what is one of the example? That let's say when the cyclone has hit, then how, if communities are trained in a specific way, then they can provide immediate relief and response. What is one of the example for it? There is an NGO called Rapid Response. Now, even NGOs are part of the community. You have to understand that what is community? What is community? There are three pillars of any kind of society. Anjani is asking that, sir, while she's writing, there was a lot of grammatical mistakes. So please give solutions. Anjani, see, first of all, this is very normal that in the initial days when we are writing, we can make grammatical errors. And it is not like that you have to be 100% grammatically correct. There are bound to be some errors, okay? बट वो ओवर द टाइम ही ठीक होता है. उसके लिए थोड़ा सा आप अगर न्यूज़पेपर भी टाइम से पढ़ेंगे तो धीरे धीरे आपका वो ग्रामेटिकल एरर ठीक होगा. एज सच I cannot really contribute much to it, that how can you fix that grammatical error. You just have to read more and more newspaper, read more and more more and more toppers copy, more and more solutions. You will ultimately get right on that track. Okay, let's come back to the question now. So how at each stage, now at the recovery stage, at the rehabilitation stage, at the reconstruction phase, for example, if a cyclone has happened but now you are trying to reconstruct the buildings, then how at the reconstruction phase the local people will be best aware about the kind of resources that are available in that area, right? So आप जब इस हर पिलर पर सोचेंगे तो आप बेटर पॉइंट्स जनरेट कर पाएंगे, पॉइंट्स की कमी नहीं होगी. प्रिपेयर्डनेस का कैसे करेंगे? नाउ व्हेन वी विल प्रोवाइड अर्ली वार्निंग सॉल्यूशंस, when we will provide early warning systems to the people, then they will be able to do better preparedness, right? When we will provide shelters to the people, then people will be able to do better mitigation, right? So through this cycle approach you can generate points. Got it? इसी cycle approach को use करके we have seen some of the very good points that have been generated by the students. Let's see those points. Easily understandable evacuation plan. तो evacuation plan कहां पर आया? Evacuation plan आया response में. That whenever we are seeing a cyclone that is happening, we have to first provide the people awareness about the different kind of evacuation plans, है ना? So a plan developed by communities themselves allow information dissemination in easier manner. Got it? Region specific planning. We just talked about that, how there are very diverse regions. There are mountains, there are plains, there are coastal areas, है ना? So each area requires community to participate in setting up required infrastructure and aid so that it is easily accessible in time of crisis. Long term regional planning. Now what they have done is they have also broken down the long term regional planning into different sectors. What are those sectors? Residential area, especially fishermen and community, type of occupation, transportation lines, type of building material, watershed management, urban planning. आपको लगेगा ये सब तो exactly question में नहीं पूछा है ना, but long term planning when it comes to cyclone management, all of this will become part of the question. Why? I will explain you. Urban planning. Urban planning will involve maintaining different kind of storm, different kind of drainage mechanism, different kind of storm water routes through which water can exit. Okay, so the different kind of storm water surges that will happen during the cyclones, we need urban planning so that that water can exit. Then watershed management. When we are going for watershed based conservation methods, then we see that how the seepage mechanism enhances, है ना? And even that will lead to cyclone mitigation. Type of building material. For example, if we are using those kind of material which are not really resilient to the wind speeds and everything, then even that is poor planning. Transportation lines, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन लाइन, कम्युनिकेशन लाइंस, वो सब तो हमें मतलब उसमें समझाने वाला कोई पॉइंट नहीं है. टाइप ऑफ ऑक्यूपेशन, दैट हाउ people should be involved. For example, if there are certain fishermen, then how they need to be made aware about the cyclone economic the cyclone early warning system, है ना, so that they can save their lives. So this is one very good example in which the candidate has used minimum words but they have delivered maximum output. That how involving the community can lead to long term planning. Identify right form of assistance as per the local demand, from rescue equipments, ration allocation to rehabilitation measures, है ना. अंडर खुद ही सेल्फ अंडरस्टैंडिंग वाला पॉइंट है ये. Delineating red zones. So what is the meaning of delineating red zones? That you go for, that you also participate in the hazard zonation mapping. Hazard zonation mapping means that you participate while you are trying to map different areas as per their vulnerability. Local communities have better knowledge of areas at highest risk. That is why such areas could be evacuated first with the help of community. Better preparedness and self-reliance. People become better prepared physically, financially, mentally. So just see that how this copy is trying to break the problem into subparts. That even wellness, when it comes to individual wellness, it is about physical, mental as well as financial, है ना. Communal cohesiveness and psychological support. If you will see the WHO guidelines, even they talk about that how giving psychological support is as much important as the different kind of financial and physical support. So even that measure can be included, that how it is only the community, it is the local people who can provide different kind of psychological support to the people, right? So this point is explained well. Overall the points are also very crisp. What is the other way to introduce this question? So इनका भी एक बार presentation देखते हैं. Effectively use local resources, ये हमने देख लिया था. Measures to reduce their vulnerability. Public awareness. Integrations of plan for long-term management. Capacities to better prepare for disaster. One thing that is missing in this form is that certain kind of practical examples are missing which were provided in the first answer, है ना. What were those practical examples? The practical examples are these kind of things, that how urban planning will also become better, the watershed management will be better, how the building material will be needed, in which community can participate, the transportation lines. So these kind of simple examples can make your answer really better. है ना? Now the next part, that how we can really involve the local communities in the planning and implementation. So how can we involve the local communities? एक बार doubt देख लेते हैं. Anjani Tiwari is saying that in her copy there was mentioned that lack of conceptual clarity. It is difficult to cover each topic deeply. Anjani Tiwari, I can suggest you one thing for this, that if the evaluator has mentioned that there is lack of conceptual clarity, you must be aware that Sunya IAS has different kind of mains booklet, the GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4 booklet. And this is the whole reason for those booklets, that we completely understand that there are certain areas in which you might be having lack of depth in your understanding. Okay. For example, let's say when I used to give the mains, there were certain areas in which I was not really confident. For example, everyone is not very comfortable when writing for internal security questions maybe, or disaster management. Just pick up the Sunya IAS mains booklets, and very crisp material is there. है ना? So you can get both the content, the clarity and the value addition at the same time to those booklets. So do check out, जिस भी topic पे आपको issue है, just pick up those booklets and try to get some conceptual clarity and then try to write the answers. Okay. Third part का देखते हैं एक बार. So how can involving the local community enhance overall resilience? Ultimately here also the points will not really be different, but you will have to talk about different aspects of the resilience. What do we mean by that? Effective planning region wise as information available from ground reality. So ultimately effective planning, right? Better immediate response, because community is at the most root level. They are actually the first responders. They are actually the first responders. And that is why they need to be trained. In rescue, relief and coordination, first aid, water sanitation, medical evacuation. Now, these, let me tell you that in the disaster management as a topic, the most important part is that you provide certain practical examples. These are the practical examples. That how the first aid, the water and sanitation and the medical kind of examination, how the local community are best equipped when it comes to handling these issues, right? Public awareness and behavioral changes as local takes responsibility and make more empowered in decision making. What can you, इसका आप example कैसे दे सकते हैं? For example, let's say there is Kudumbushri. Let's say there is Kudumbushri in Kerala, right? Now, if a cyclone has happened in the Kerala and there is lot of destruction, there is lack of toilets, there are lack of sanitation, there is lack of water, then Kudumbushri who are working at the ground, right? Who are working at the ground, who are aware about their community, who are aware about the priorities of the community, that what is needed first, they will be able to better allocate the resources which are available, right? So how these kind of community organizations like NGOs, like SHGs, like Panchayati Raj institutions, they will collaborate together and they will try to make a kind of a partnership with the national and the state authorities to deliver the goods in the best possible manner, right? So you can give the example of Kudumbushri. Gender sensitive and inclusive planning, just what I was talking about, that how if there is Kudumbushri, how if there is for example, we saw that there was a disaster can be of different ways. Even COVID-19 pandemic is a disaster, right? So how in UP there were Prerna canteens that were being run to provide food, how there were different women organizations that were fighting, providing aid regarding the gender violence that was happening. So gender, when it comes to providing gender sensitive solutions, even then the community is more important because they understand their social issues. Indigenous knowledge assimilation and planning process makes it sustainable and effective. So how? Here you can give the example that how when it comes to disaster management, the local people are best aware about the issues. What is the example for it? One of the example is Ramappa temple. You will see that how Ramappa temple is a very old temple. It has also been included in the UNESCO list. Now they are based on a sandbox technique. पढ़ना इसके बारे में आप, right? So how they are earthquake resilient, how they are cyclone resilient. They मतलब ये temple destroy नहीं हुआ है अभी तक, and there was no kind of concrete or cement that was used in this temple. Now this is an example of local and traditional knowledge system. So local and traditional knowledge system needs to be integrated within our modern planning so that we can try to enhance the resilience of our infrastructure. है ना? So indigenous knowledge में भी आप example Ramappa temple का दे सकते हैं. Enforce downward accountability as locals are empowered to strictly confront authorities and ensure transparency. इन्होंने governance का point दे दिया है. Right? Now this point is really nice. You can give this kind of example while you are trying to just conclude your answer, where you give certain kind of best practice. What is the best practice? Odisha is a living example of being vulnerable yet resilient by corroborating community level disaster preparedness recognized by even UNESCO and World Bank. What could have been better? What could have been better? You could have shared that how in the 1919 cyclone, this is one of the worst disasters that happened in Odisha, where thousands of lives were compromised. Okay, but in the recent cyclones that have happened in the 2023 and 2022, there have been almost zero casualties. Why there have been these zero casualties? Because community participation is integrated within the cyclone management in Odisha. How the fishermen are trained, how the local women are trained, how the NGOs are being trained, right, in Odisha. So Odisha is one of the best examples. Now the conclusion: citizen-centric mapping, planning of resources and inclusion in planning process. Visualize the first responders. See, this is the keyword which I gave you at the start itself, that how community is actually the first responder in the disaster management cycle, right? It helps in more self-reliant and the disaster management plan more resilient. Decent conclusion. So overall जिनकी भी copy थी ये, it was a very good copy. Why? थोड़ा सा practicality दिख रही थी, that they are talking about the grassroots issues which happen in cyclone management and how that can be addressed. One thing that you could have integrated was that you could have made this diagram in context of cyclone management, है ना? Disaster management का जो भी question आएगा, this is the foundation of that, है ना? What are the other things which can be used? What are the other things which can be used? There are certain very set examples that you have to use in disaster management question. Let me tell you that how you have to find your equilibrium when it comes to disaster management questions. There will be certain general points and then there will be certain disaster specific points. Now, for example, if cyclone is happening, if landslide is happening, if earthquake is happening, then there are certain specific disaster specific measures which have to be there, है ना? Even within that disaster specific measures, there are certain structural measures, and then there are certain non-structural measures. What do we mean by this? That let's say Let's say a cyclone is happening. Let's say we are talking about a cyclone. Then for cyclone, if we are planting mangrove trees on the embanks, on the bankments, if we are making certain kind of walls, cyclone storm walls on the coastal areas, those are the structural measures that we are taking. But there are also certain non-structural measures. For example, we are creating early warning systems, है ना? So these are the non-structural measures. So for every disaster, if you will open the Sunya IAS mains book for GS3, you will see that we have segregated these structural and non-structural measures. Okay. So for every disaster, you should have these structural and non-structural measures in your head. 2 to 3 points in each structural and non-structural would be suffice. Then there are certain general points also. What are those general points? That you should be aware about some value additions. I am giving you those value additions. The first one is Sendai framework. So Sendai framework is one of the frameworks which is made by the United Nations to go for better disaster management, and it is actually the Sendai framework that has introduced the concept of risk awareness, risk reduction, and risk resilience. Okay, so there are certain kind of general points which can be used in all the disasters, है ना? Sendai framework is one of them. Then there are also 10 principles. This is called PM 10-point formula. So Prime Minister has given a 10-point formula for disaster management, for disaster risk reduction. The exact point is DRR, disaster risk reduction. So Prime Minister has given this 10-point formula, and community participation, community awareness, enhancing the technology when it comes to the community awareness, providing certain data solutions, early warning system, all of this is part of PM 10-point formula. You just have to do one simple Google. And you just have to do one simple Google and you will get all those 10 points. These kind of general points will come as a fodder. It will come as a fodder to you for all the disaster management related questions. So do make use of this. Let's come back to the question now. So these were the value additions which I was telling to you. Now let's see some more good answers. I think we have seen this. Let's see this one. Involvement of local communities in planning and implementation. We will just see the subheadings. Possession of valuable information. So how the local communities are aware about the local traditions and the local knowledge system. I just talked about the Ramappa temple. You can talk about the local homes which are being created in the Bhuj areas. There were huts which were made of the mud, out of the mud, and how the concretized buildings were having, collapses, but these mud huts that were there in the Bhuj area, they were not destroyed. Fostering of sense of unity, targeted decision making, better use of local resources. This case study is also given, that how Mahakali River Basin community based management is there and how it is an example of community management, right? So these were the best examples. How we can conclude? How we can conclude the question? Best practice हमने उड़ीसा वाली बताई है, right? Conclusion में what we can do is, we can mention that how India is going for disaster management plans at the Panchayati level. Panchayati Raj disaster management plans. This is one of the most important feature in which we are trying to decentralize. We are trying to decentralize our disaster management system, right? Then how government is focusing on community training. What is the example for this? The example is Aapda Mitra scheme. Under the Aapda Mitra scheme, just like we have Bank Mitra, just like we have different kind of other support mechanisms, under the Aapda Mitra training scheme, government is trying to train the local people when it comes to providing the immediate response. है ना? So Aapda Mitra, this is the latest scheme. Government has a goal to make lakh plus volunteer trainees, है ना? And how they will become part of the disaster मैनेजमेंट. इस तरह से आप इसका कंक्लूजन कर सकते हैं. अंजनी इज सेइंग सर प्लीज बीइंग राइटिंग सेशंस फॉर फिलोसॉफिकल एसेज एंड प्लीज presentation should be formal or informal. I'm not able to understand what Anjani is saying in the second part, but okay, we will try to bring in discussions on philosophical essays also. Okay, so that is it for today's session. This was question number 18 for the DAW, that is daily answer writing. We were not there live on YouTube for some days for some of the unavoidable reasons, but I can assure you that from now on we will be coming live every day at 11:30 AM and we will resume our sessions. We will complete the GS3 DAW. The questions which are not completed so far, they will be added to the playlist and you can watch those lectures there. Okay. So thank you so much for watching this. If you have any kind of doubt, you can reach out. You can reach out to me. My name is Rishabh Jain. If you have any doubt regarding mains answer writing, regarding your mains preparation, you can reach out to me at Sunya IAS. Okay. So that's it for today's session. Anjani, for PSIR, we have brought out a PSIR enrichment course. I am myself taking that course, so you can check out our website and you can check out the PSIR enrichment course. We are in a very targeted manner, we are solving the problem of how to write answers in PSIR, and we are also revising the PSIR topic wise. Okay. So you can check out that program. It is a very, very excellent program. Do check out that. So that's it for today's session. We will meet again. We will meet tomorrow, 11:30 sharp in the morning. Do share the information about these kind of mains answer writing session to your friends also, because we can collaborate in the maximum manner regarding that. अंजनी तिवारी इज आस्किंग विच वेबसाइट. अंजनी शून्य IAS वेबसाइट पर जाइए आप एंड वहाँ पर ऊपर ऑप्शनल्स लिखा होता है एक टैग में. क्लिक ऑन दोज ऑप्शनल्स एंड देन गो टू PSIR ऑप्शनल where you can choose the PSIR enrichment course. You can also call at Sunya IAS to know more about this program. Okay. Okay then, goodbye and take care. We will see you again tomorrow.